We're excited. We got some really good topics. We have some really good topics today. We're going to talk about arm care. We're going to talk about how to design the perfect practice. We're going to talk about 3 of our favorite hitting drills. We've been getting asked a lot of questions since so many people are inside. What are some drills that we can do? And, majority of the questions are that 8 to 12-year-old team that have maybe sometimes even have multiple teams, 15, 20 kids at a time. And, how do we kind of construct our plan to work with that? So the fun part about this week is we're doing giving away 4 free 8-week coaching courses, which we're going to announce at the end of the show. So we're excited to pick the winner for that. So Coach Steve, where do you want to get started? What do you want to get started with?
No, that's really good. I mean, type in your questions in the comments below because we love answering your guys' questions live. I think we touched on last week a little bit about our favorite hitting drills. And it was a really good question coming from one of the softball coaches out there. And it's tough for us to say our favorite because we use so many, and so much of it is, based around the individual and that individual's needs. But I think there are certain drills that we like to incorporate every week in practice. That's, our tee work, our flip work, our batting practice. Duke mentioned the rewind drill. We talked a lot about timing. So if there's any specific questions or needs that you guys have out there, please feel free to drop them in the comments, and we'll be sure to get to them today.
So let's start with this one. So Coach Kyle said, we coach an 8U team in North Missouri. We've been running a timed practice about an hour to an hour and a half and doing stations and drills. On top, we've also been using a stopwatch to keep the kids interested and keep them moving. Last practice, we were working on drills with our infielders, and they were just not getting it. They were getting the force out, working on turning double plays. We set the drills for 15 minutes, and their question is, they weren't quite getting it, so they weren't sure, do we keep on going or do we stop, table it, and continue it next week? He said because they kept on doing it, and the players then started getting bored, and then it was almost counterproductive. So can you talk a little bit about, in practice planning, we like to keep our stations, smaller, and I don't think it is a problem to kind of postpone something that's not working.
Yeah, especially for that age. When the kids start to lose focus, whether they're getting frustrated or bored because they're doing the same thing, I don't think there's anything wrong with, maybe talking about it, leaving it where you guys finish, and then retouching on it the following week to try to master that. For my older guys, we call audibles all the time. So if we're working on a pick series, or we're working on maybe rundowns, or certain situational type stuff that we need to cover before the game, we can pull an audible on our practice plan and then continue that drill. But I think when you're talking about, what was the age of the team? It was younger, right?
8 years old.
So for 8 years old, there's nothing wrong with, okay, we covered the introduction of it. We covered the beginning pieces of it. We're going to refocus on this, again next week at practice, and maybe shoot out a quick email through Team Snap or whatever, communication you guys use to just say, all right, guys, don't forget, here's a couple of things we worked on this week. Here, whatever that focus was, whether it was the double plays, whether it was the footwork, whatever they weren't understanding, here are a few things to focus on this week at this week at home. And then next practice, we're gonna jump right back into it.
That's good. That's good. Before we get to the next question, make sure you leave in the comments, where are you viewing us from? Where are you? What state are you in? What country are you in? What age level team are you coaching? And also, even your level of coaching. Are you a first-time coach? Are you a seasoned coach? Are you just trying it for the first time? So please leave all 3 of those in there, where you're calling from, what's the age, and kind of what level coach you are, because that's really important for us in how we would answer, some of these questions. So leave that. We love seeing where everyone's checking in from. So that's going to get us to our second question from Coach Joe. Coach Joe said, we coach a 10U travel baseball team. I would like my catchers to start identifying how a batter sets up in the box. Is he crowding the plate? Is he too far away? And I desperately need catchers to start identifying batters, whether they position their glove inside or outside. So I guess what Coach Joe is saying is really having the catchers read the hitters so that he can relay the signs into the pitcher, whether we're going to go inside or outside based on where he is in the box at 10 years old.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, especially because a lot of the times you don't have just primary catchers. A lot of times catchers also pitch. They also play first. They play the outfield. But I would just try to throw them into situational type play in practice. And what I mean by that is, have your pitcher throw to a hitter, even if the batter's just in there just shadowing the bullpen and he's not even swinging. Have your catcher back there, and then maybe have a screen and have a coach sitting right behind that catcher, saying, all right, what are you thinking right now? And really just put him in that situation. And, what are you thinking right now with where the batter's standing? And you can kind of be his ears for him. He can talk to you. He might be completely wrong. He might not even know what back in the box means, or up in the box, or close to the plate, or far away. So standing right behind that catcher, or sitting behind the catcher, saying, all right, with this kid positioned right here, what are you thinking this at bat? Or, with this kid's tendencies, it might be a kid that crowds the plate, but he just really loves the ball inside. So we're going to try to, pitch him down and away off the plate. I think every hitter's different, and everybody's got different tendencies. But to teach them to understand the the game within the game, and reading the batter, and reading, is this a big power hitter that only pulls the ball? Is it a scrappy little player that shoots the ball to all fields? Whatever that different situation is that arises during the game, I think it's good to teach our players, one, how to call pitches, two, how to read tendencies and read positioning in the batter's box. But, without really understanding what's going on in their head, it's challenging. So I would say get right behind them in practice, kind of throw them to the fire and teach them. Duke's getting a phone call, sorry. Teach them how to read that situation.
And I also think that it's a good job for your coaches to write down and kind of keep track on a notepad what the hitters are actually doing, right? Some of these kids, especially at 10 years old, they may be real close to the plate, but not even like the ball inside. So their tendencies might not even really dictate what they really do as a hitter. So they may be stepping out into the box and crushing balls that are outside. So you can't just go based on where they stand in the box is going to really tell you the whole entire story. So I think that watch each hitter. As a coach, start marking down what kind of hitter he is. Then when the catcher comes in from for the game, you can then go over that and discuss that with your hitters and your catcher and stuff like that. So teaching them the game, I think, is
that was going to be
really important.
That was going to be my other big piece too. Is like I'll let my catchers call pitches in the game, and if they make a mistake, it's not my job to scream at them from the dugout and tell them, why'd you call that pitch? I'll wait for them to come in. And a lot of times they have a good reason behind it. Maybe the pitcher just made a bad pitch. He didn't locate it well enough. 0-2 count, our catcher might try to locate a fastball, 3 inches off the plate to steal strike 3. The pitcher leaves it middle, and the kid hits a home run. Well, it's not the catcher's fault. He was thinking the right thing, or maybe he had the right idea behind it, and it just didn't work out. But teaching them to understand the game like that is huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have Coach John Simon. He says, we've been training indoors with an 8U and a 10U team. We have about an hour and 15 minutes every Tuesday. Sometimes we get over 20 kids, and it becomes really difficult to be productive and keep all the kids involved. If we had a plan broken out into multiple stations, I think this would really help. You're right, Coach Simon. I think our 8-week program will help you. I'm going to show you a picture right here. I have of our practice plan. I have a practice plan that's here, that's pretty much designed, from everything that we have, from all the stations, how long they are, all that stuff. But on another page, you're gonna see a ton of actual drills. So we have 7 different stations on here based on how many kids are gonna be coming to in our instance, it's a high school team that comes in. They bring in 50 guys. We may have 30, we may have 50. If we have 50, we are prepared for all 50 kids. We're gonna break them up into 12 4-man stations. It's all set up. If we only have 30, we then break it down. We knock out some certain stations. Maybe we don't use those, and we go that way. So I think what a good idea for you as a coach is, what's the most amount of players you might get at a given time, and work backwards. You can always subtract, or if you do have 8 stations and only enough for 4, well, they can still rotate through all 8 stations. You're just kind of going with them through the stations this way, opposed to a group of 4 at every single station. So that's just one way of really making sure that you're prepared going into the practice, not knowing how many kids are really going to be there.
Yeah.
So
we just did that the other day with that same high school team that Duke's talking about. we had 40 kids fielding at once, and we had 10 stations broken up of 4 kids at each station. We were using Hiko sticks, we were using smush balls, we were doing our pick series, ladder drills, hurdle drills, a diving station, and these are high school kids that are used to moving fast, and they were engaged. It was a 15-minute warm-up. That was our new version of our dynamic warm-up for them, and they loved it. And 15 minutes into practice, they had a sweat going. They worked on all these different fundamentals of the game, as opposed to us just saying, head down the line and get loose. A lot of times you can be productive during your warm-up time instead of spending 15 minutes at the beginning of practice just doing, high knees, butt kicks, side shuffles, karaoke, all that stuff. You can actually make it tailored to the positions that they play.
I wanted to take a minute also before we get to the next question, which we're getting up in the queue right now, and talk a little bit about our 8-week program, like what it is, why we designed it, and who's it for. So, Coach Steve and I designed this last year because it was a time where in the winter time, a lot of coaches weren't sure how to map out 8 weeks. How do we map out our indoor training program or our preseason training program? So we came up with 8 weeks of actual practice plans, and then also made a video showing the entire practice from start to finish, from the dynamic warm-up, the throwing program. We broke up all 5 stations. We explained what the teaching points are, what to look for. We then did the same thing for the hitting. We did game situations. We had a word of the day, and every single 30-minute video is pretty much giving you an exact blueprint of that day's practice or that week's game plan, and you have 8 of them. So it really gets you through almost your entire season of how to get your teams ready. And Coach Steve did an awesome job of mapping out the progression from just teaching how to field a ground ball to the catch and the shuffle to the catch, the shuffle, and the throw. Like, it's really broken down. So whether you're a first-time coach or you've coached for years, this is a great way to kind of help you, give you a map of pretty much everything pre-done for you.
Yeah, and I think the important piece there is the build-up to the season, because there are certain things that need to be covered, right? We could always work on hitting and fielding and pitching, but making sure that we're prepared by opening day, and in terms of base running, in terms of situational play, all the little things that happen, rundowns, first and third defenses, all these things that need to be covered by opening day that sometimes we might forget to cover, or we're only indoors, or we only get so many practices leading up to the season. So like Duke said, the progression and the build up to opening day is really important, and making sure that, all right, when we go out there on opening day, our kids know our signs, we know our bunt coverages, we know our first and third defense, we know our situational hitting, we know how to play different positions on the field. It really is, it's a program that we created because we go through it here. We train every high school team in the area, we train little league teams, we train travel teams, and it's our job to make sure that those guys are prepared by opening day, and we follow the same blueprint and make sure that by the time they get out there 8 weeks later, they've got everything covered and they're ready to roll.
One of the questions that we've been getting week after week is the 10 and 11-year-old coach that's indoors that wants to figure out how to add throwing, like pitching program, into their actual practice time. Can you talk a little bit about how do we fit pitching into a practice when we only have an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half, and we have so much to do at practice? What are some ways that we can add some pitching to that practice?
Yeah, that's a tough question, especially when you're trying to work on team-oriented things like situational defense or bunt defense, base running. So there's 2 different ways we like to do it. One is we add it in at the end of every throwing program, right? So what we'll do, and Duke and I have shot a video before where we're partners. We do our normal throwing program. Once we get back to long toss, we work back into 45 feet. And now each person on, let's say it's on the line, is now the pitcher. The other way to do it is if you have another coach, I don't mind sending pitchers one at a time to work with him throughout practice, maybe going down and getting their bullpen session in, and doing it that way. This way, again, you're not taking 25 minutes, you're having one coach or one kid pitch while the rest of the kids are watching, making sure that those kids are busy. So I would either add it in at the end of the throwing program, or I would have a coach designated to work with the pitchers that day. You take one kid at a time for 5 minutes. It could be during batting practice. It could be during the defensive stations. But make sure you add in pitching, because aside from throwing strikes and learning how to pitch, it's important that we build their arm strength up by opening day and monitor their pitch counts and make sure that, kid only throws 15 pitches leading up to opening day. Well, we don't run them out there for 65 pitches on day one. We make sure that there's a progression, there's a build up to opening day, and that kid's arm is healthy and ready to roll. A lot of the things we like to do on opening day is, keep the pitch count minimal. Right? We're going out, we're throwing 25 pitches today. Or maybe it's going to be a full pitching staff day. We're going to play a 6-inning game, and each pitcher is going to throw 1 inning today on opening day, just to, ramp them up and build them up. Don't, send them out there on March 1st when it's cold out and run their pitch count way too high.
Another question Coach just asked was, do you believe in teaching a load to a 9 and 10-year-old? He said that a lot of times when a player strides, they kind of load their hands automatically. And if you work on certain loading, drills, they kind of go back to their old way. So I think that's a good question because, when you are talking about that, really it's just a small movement of your hands to really load your hands. I think that teaching 8 and 9-year-olds, there's phases to the swing, but where we put their hands is really important as well. So you can almost have them in a pre-load position so that when they stride, their hands are loaded opposed to, being in a bad position. And I think a lot of times, if I were to show this, I think a lot of times when when coaches are trying to teach loads, they think their hands have to really go far back and get into, okay, now I'm loaded up to hit. Well, that's not what a loading position really means. A loading position just means that when I stride forward and I get ready, that my hands are staying in a good, strong position. So if I were to show almost like a fist here, if I stride and my hands come with me, this is not a loaded position. If I stride and my hand stays in the same exact position, my hands are now loaded. So this is a good, solid position. So that's an easy way to teach your hitters pretty much what a load is. Get them in a punching position, have them bend their knees, and have them take a stride, and don't let their hands move forward with them. Because this is, that'll happen. And a lot of times when you teach kids how to load their hands, you'll see a lot of this. Okay, I'm loaded, but that is not, that's not where we want to be. So do you have any?
Yeah, can you just do that one more time? I think coach is
the bad one?
No, the good one.
Oh, okay.
I think coach is a good one to watch there. Is Duke's hands are pretty much always staying stacked over his back foot. Right, his hands aren't really pushing back far. They're not drifting with him. So that's a good way to just use for your kids as a reference. They can practice at home and just get in the mirror. But those hands pretty much stay stacked right over his back foot as he moves forward. That's getting him into a good position. Another good variation, Duke's going to be my hitter again, is instead of holding a bat, I'm just going to have him hold the PVC pipe right there. He's going to do the exact same thing. He's going to go through his load, but he's going to hold the PVC pipe into the ground. So I do that with kids sometimes that tend to, jump at the ball or kind of crash forward, but you can use a broomstick, you can use a shovel, whatever you want at home to get creative. We like using the PVC pipe. Just you're basically holding that PVC pipe into the ground, holding it right outside the back foot, and that's getting you into a good launch position as well.
That's good. That's good. So Coach Mike Adams asks.
Nope.
Oh, no. Different one? Oh, Coach Lee, gotcha. As a former softball player, I struggle with at what age and what pitches do you teach the kids? My main focus of the point, hit the strike zone with some off-speed and curveballs. What do you recommend? The whole question's not there.
I think Coach Lee's asking at what ages are we teaching certain pitches to players, right? And at what age do we start to implement breaking balls and change-ups? I know at the younger ages, really up until 13U, we try to do a lot of fastball change-up work. Not a lot of breaking balls. I had Tommy John surgery. My brothers had 2 Tommy John surgeries. You see a lot of kids injuring themselves. And we don't know if it's overuse, we don't know if it's too many breaking balls at a young age, but kids will fall in love with throwing a curveball, right? And it's monitoring. So, you might have a 12-year-old that's a bigger, stronger kid that does have a curveball or, a cutter or a slider, whatever you want to call it. But it's making sure that we monitor that and don't use it too much. I've coached a 13U team where we're going out and facing a kid, he might throw 75 pitches and it seems like 53 of them are curveballs just because he loves it and he feels like it's going to get every hitter off balance. But I think anytime you're talking about off-speed pitches, it's really just to change up the eyesight and the rhythm and the timing of the hitter. So I think a good changeup is a really good pitch to teach from 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. Now at 13, as the kids get a little bit older, we can start implementing maybe a curveball or a slider. But again, watching how many times they're throwing it, right? We want to locate our fastball early in the count. We want to be able to locate it inside, outside, middle, up, down, and then also adding in that changeup. I think the changeup for me was the hardest pitch to hit because it looked like a fastball coming in. There's a lot of times you get kids that go out there and they think that curveball is going to be really good, but a big loopy curveball, a batter's going to be able to pick up right away. A good changeup is going to have the same exact either four-seam or two-seam spin as their fastball, and it's really challenging for hitters to pick up on. And it was a pitch that I struggled with, and you know, I would say at that younger ages, fastball changeup. If you've got those, you know, select cases where a kid is a bigger, stronger kid that is more developed and, you know, is more mature than maybe the younger player, and they do want to mix in a breaking ball here and there, that's fine. But make sure, coaches, we monitor it. We don't want our guys going out there throwing 35 breaking balls, you know, when they're only throwing, you know, 60 pitches a game. We want to make sure, you know, maybe once or twice an inning, really limit the use of it.
So we got another good question from Coach Dan. He has a 11 and 12-year-old team, and he says, inevitably, like the better guys pitch, catch. He has them at first base. He wants them to play all over, but what's a way to build into a practice strategy to allow those players to get more reps at other positions? I think that's a great question because that does happen a lot. You know, there's a lot of coaches out there that, you know, put the same kids in the same spots, and maybe the best kid goes to short, but all of a sudden now when he pitches, nobody else has even practiced at shortstop. So now they run into problems. So I think that during practice, it's really important to break out into maybe a 15 minutes of position-specific training. And now they work on, maybe every week it's a different position that kid is, you know, can play possibly. So they're learning other positions. It's shortstop one week, it's right field, it's, you know, however you want to work that. But I think that's a way to build into your practice. Also, when you're building into your stations, a ground ball station, a fly ball station, a line drive station, a tagging station, those guys might not be playing those specific positions on the field, but you're training them in the drills, and with the drills, you're teaching them the skills that they need to learn to play those other positions. So that's another way to build in kind of the position-specific stuff in practice.
Yeah, and one other thing that I've done too is we actually play simulated games sometimes. So, you know, we might go through a weekend where I have our pitching rotation set up for 6-7 games if we're in a big tournament, but then we only get 3 or 4 games because we get knocked out, right, and we lose. So 3 of my pitchers didn't even get to throw that weekend. So coach, if you have a pitcher that maybe didn't get his work in and you're practicing on Tuesday or Wednesday, let him go out there and throw live to a couple hitters. This way he's still getting on the mound. He's still getting his innings in. You know, same thing with positions. It's fun to do that, and you're doing a simulated game because it's controlled, and you can try out kids in different positions. And you might be surprised. There might be a kid that you say, you know, think there's no way he can play the outfield or no way he can play the middle infield, and he surprises you, and he can do it. But I think, you know, kind of throwing them in the fire like that in practice and getting your pitchers work at practice that didn't get to throw over the weekend, and then moving the guys around to different positions will challenge them, and it might build their confidence to be able to do it on the weekend.
That's awesome. Coach, which coach was that, Dom? Coach asked a question of sliding, how to teach sliding. Do we have any good sliding drills? So this is from Coach Jaden Young. Thanks so much, West New York Little League here out of New Jersey, looking for a good drill to practice sliding. Yes, we have some good drills. I think that one of the keys is that you have either a sliding mat, like you'll look in the back, we have, you'll see a couple different mats back there. We have a red one, a blue one, and then we also have like a black mat back there that we put on top of the actual mat that slides really well. If you have some cardboard, you can take a big piece of cardboard and put that, you know, depending on where you're practicing. If you're on a field it'll be fine. But if you're indoors, a lot of times using the cardboard will allow you to slide really well. But we talk a lot about the figure four. So whether it's my right foot going underneath my left or my left foot going underneath my right, that's how we want to get into. We want to make sure we lean back a little bit. We want to make sure that our hands are nice and kind of in this position. I like to say like we're grabbing dirt and you're holding dirt in your hands. You're not squeezing, but you're kind of holding like this. We're leaning back and we're going to slide, try to stay low, and we're going to keep our elbows tucked in. So a lot of kids are going to want to put their hands down and they can jam a finger, or they slide to the right and they whack their elbow. So you want to really try to keep that good solid figure four slide come through. You can find all those in our membership. In our rookie program, our minors, our majors, we have 4 different sliding drills and 4 different sliding techniques. We have the straight slide, we have the hook slide, we have the pop-up slide.
Diving back into bases.
Diving back into the bases. So you can get our membership for free for 7 days and get access to all 700 videos. So if you go into the rookies, minors, or majors, the sliding videos are all in there. So that's a great way to get them to slide. They don't have to run really far, but you do need to make sure that they're running pretty high speed in order to slide. Also, put a helmet on them, because a lot of the kids that don't know what they're doing will lean back and they could whack their head. We always usually get 1 out of 12 that kind of has a back lean and their head might hit the ground. So make sure they have their helmets on just to be on the safe side. And another part of it that you can do is when they go to slide, lean down like this. They will slide below you, and with their hands being in this position, you can have them put their hands up actually, and you can pull them right up off the ground, and they'll actually slide and pop right up. That's when you know they did it well. If they go to slide on their side, they'll wipe out and they won't be able to. So if they know they're grabbing your hands, it's gonna flatten them out and make them slide properly. So that's a really good sliding drill that we have. We show them all in the videos.
Yeah, Coach, that's a really good question, because a lot of kids think they can slide, but they don't really understand the reason behind sliding, right? There's 2 reasons why we slide. One is to avoid a tag, and then 2 is get to the next base as quickly as possible without slowing down. So a lot of kids, especially when we're teaching sliding, is they'll run, they'll slow down, and then they'll try to slide, but it's kind of counterproductive, because at that point, they're not going that fast. They kind of just hit the dirt and stop. So making sure that we're going full speed from point A to point B, my fastest way to get to second base without running through the base is to run into slide, and then also to avoid a tag. So once they understand the concept of that, sometimes we'll have a coach standing out on the base, and that coach will either, reach on this side of the bag, which will teach the player they have to slide on the back side, or they'll reach on this side of the bag, simulating a throw from the outfield, and that player has to slide on the inside part of the bag. But you can get creative with it and have fun. I mean, we've done slip and slides outside in the summer too, right? Just to have fun with the kids, and we get a tarp out there and spray some water on it and make our own slip and slide. But if the grass is wet in the outfield, like Duke said, using the sliding mats is huge. If you're on a gym floor, which a lot of us are this time of year, the cardboard also works. But I would tell your kids, make sure they bring some pants before the next practice, because we get some kids in here, we're practicing sliding or diving, and they're wearing shorts and they leave here with skid marks all over their legs.
Oh man. So Coach Justin asks, 11U, we have our first game next week. What is a good bullpen session or number of throws, knowing that they're getting ready to ramp up? I think these are great questions, because we're not really pitching guys, but we do have teams and coach teams of all ages and skill levels and stuff like that. So I think these questions are awesome, and they always come up as far as pitchers and how much to throw and when to throw and stuff like that. So I think that as you are leading into playing this weekend for the first time, my first question to you would be, how much have they been throwing, right? I mean, for our guys, I have an 11-year-old team. We're in week 3. I know that we're still about 2 months out from actually starting. Our pitchers are throwing a little bit, but they haven't thrown bullpens or thrown a lot. So if we were to start next week, I would have a way different answer based on that, opposed to not knowing how much you've already been throwing.
Yeah, what we like to do right now, Coach, and it's a good question, is we will build up, to that start date. So let's say we're 4 weeks out. We might have our guys throw one set of 15 pitches. All right, that's their bullpen for week 1. Week 2 might be 2 sets of 10 pitches to kind of simulate 2 innings. So they'll throw 10, another guy will hop on the mound, he'll throw 10, that person will come back up, so they get 2 sets of 10. The third week, they might go 2 sets of 15, and then that fourth week, they might go 2 sets of 15 to 20 pitches just to kind of get them up to 40. But again, we're working off, like Duke said, that number that they have thrown up until that point. If they haven't thrown much, don't get them on the mound for 40 pitches and then assume that they're going to throw 40 to 60 the following week. So just be aware of how many they've thrown up until this point. If you haven't done much at all, and next week's opening day, I would maybe have everybody throw 15, 20 pitches at practice and then go inning by inning. And what I mean by that is, Coach Duke's going to throw inning 1, I'm going to throw inning 2, Dom's going to throw inning 3, and kind of build them into the season that way. But definitely don't make the ramp up too quick, especially this time of year. It's cold out. I'm sure if you're starting next week, you've got to be down south somewhere, which we're all jealous. We got snow on the ground up here. But yeah, build in lightly. A lot of these kids are playing spring, summer, and fall ball. It's going to be a lot of throwing this season. So ramp up slowly.
Coach Trent has a good question. Coach Trent says, how do you guys help a kid whose bat isn't coming through the zone on time? So I grabbed this thing right here for the first time yesterday. I saw it online. The guy sent us a couple. It's called the Dynaswing. And what it does, it actually has sand that goes into the handle pretty much. I guess it goes to about right here. So you won't be able to hear it, but as soon as the bat starts to level out, you'll hear the sand shuffle from here to here. So a lot of times what will happen is when your player's not getting their barrel through, sometimes what we say is the bat lags, or they kind of flatten out way early. So they'll get into their stride position and their bat will already start to drop down, and you'll hear the sand already starting to go into my barrel, opposed to staying into a good connected situation where you won't even hear the sand yet until I actually go for my explosion. So if your player is laying it down, now their body's starting to swing, but as you can see, my barrel is still way back there, and all I'm going to do is get lucky on a high outside pitch. Maybe I catch it and go that way, but anything inside, I'm getting really long on. So something that you can check is just when they get to their stride position, that they're in a good hitting position. You can also set up a tee so it's straight across from them. Maybe you set it up like on the outside corner and they get ready and they're visualizing turning and actually hitting an inside pitch and not hitting the tee and getting long. That's another good drill for that. Coach Steve loves to use the connection ball, and the connection ball really kind of keeps things connected as well. When you're in this position, if you drop the barrel down, the ball flops out. If you keep it connected, it helps you come through, which is going to allow and help you get your barrel through and snap through on contact. So the connection ball, will add that into the link below, but we use that on the front arm, we use it on the back arm, we use it for throwing, we use it for a ton of things. So the tap connection ball is an awesome product that really helps with allowing the hitter to know, oh, I got disconnected, the ball falls out, or I'm staying connected, it's staying with me, and I'm staying through the ball. So that question gets asked a lot. Some people call it casting. Our hitters are casting out, or my hitter keeps on getting jammed in here. It's all this same, comes from the same exact thing of our body kind of pulling off this way and getting our barrel out there, opposed to turning, staying inside the ball, and driving through. So hopefully that helps with that. Coach Steve, let's flip the conversation a little bit from the skills set to a little bit about the mindset. So I got asked a question this morning. Actually, I called Coach Shannon. She was from Missouri, and she said she has an 8-year-old team, and there's one of the boys on the team that's really good, but he cries a lot. Like he makes an error and he throws his glove, and he's really intense and he's really good, but just they can't seem to help him. Like, what do you say to somebody that's just so geared up and juiced up, and every time that something goes wrong, something's flying somewhere. The tears start coming down, and the bats and the gloves and stuff just gets thrown everywhere. Yeah. And at 8 years old, it's tough to control emotions at 18 years old, right? So when they're 8, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I guess there's, another coach out there that's more footballish and stop crying, stop whining, stop being a baby, stop. And you and I both know that does the opposite to somebody that's in that situation. So can you talk a little bit about just like the mental part of that, and what would your answer be to that, coach?
Definitely. I think especially in baseball and softball where we fail so much as it is, right? You've got players that are going up to home plate, and I'm assuming if that player is really good, they're hitting 300 plus. So they're going to fail 7 out of 10 times. We've all heard that before, right? So one message we always like to send here, and I learned it from one of our coaches at a coaches convention, is are you focused on the 7 or are you focused on the 3? And what that means is, are you focused on the 7 times that you get out, or are you going to focus on the 3 times that you get a hit, right? You're only going to make, let's say the kid's making 1 error a game, but he might be making 5 or 6 really good plays. Are you going to focus on that 1 error and let it ruin the rest of your day, or are we going to try to flush it and move on and focus on all the really good plays that you made throughout the game? I think it's tough, especially at 8 years old. I've gone through situations where the best player on my team has the worst attitude. And a message that I'll send to him, this is a little bit older, is, you're 15 years old now. Right, there's no such thing as throwing equipment in our dugout. We don't throw helmets. We don't curse. We don't yell at the umpire. We never jog down the first baseline. Those are rules that we kind of lay out early on in the year. But as the better player on the team, the kids are going to look up to you, and they're going to follow you by example. So one thing that I do, and again, I'm not telling you to do this with your 8-year-old team, but if there's any throwing equipment, if there's any cursing, yelling at the umpire, any of that, you're going to sit for an inning, and that's just a rule that we have on our team. It's just, there's not going to be, I'm not going to get mad at you. Your team might get mad at you because now if you're the starting shortstop and you're the best player on the team, now you might be sitting for an inning, right? And it might hurt our chances of winning or, having a productive inning, but that's our rule. If you curse, if you jog down the first baseline, if you throw your equipment, you're just going to sit for an inning and you're going to calm down. And I get it. I used to get angry too, and you'd want to slam your helmet, you want to slam your bat, you've got fire, that's good, but we got to make sure that we control it. You're not going to be benched for the whole game. You're not going to get suspended, right? But we got to make sure that we have that flush it button and we can, turn off our emotions quick. Some of the best baseball players I've ever seen have short memories, right? Good and bad. You could be 3 for 3 with 3 home runs or 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts, but you've got to have the same level of focus when you get up to your 4th at bat, because you owe it to yourself and your team, and it's challenging. Sometimes, on the flip side, you'll see kids that are 3 for 3 with 3 doubles, they're having a good day, and now all of a sudden they get in the batter's box and they're Barry Bonds. And they say, well, I already got my 3 hits today, so I'm going to try to hit a homer. Well, we can't give any at-bats away. And it's the same way if you're 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts and you get up to home plate and you're just saying your prayers that I just hope I make contact right now. Instead, having that routine and, having that flush it. Duke talked last week about the little toilet bowl in the dugout, the flush it bowl, and the kids loved it, and they were laughing, and, as soon as it made the toilet bowl flushing noise, the kids started cracking up and laughing. And it's just a fun way to, forget about what happened, and forget about what happened good and bad. And, I think you'll see kids start to play a little bit more here instead of up and down so much. But that's a tough one. Yeah. What do you do? You've got a little guy. You coach the little guys. What's something that you do with kids that cry?
I think that, at first I was like, why are they crying? Like, why is he coming in and crying? Like, he's out, and had that same mentality at first of like, and then you watch kid after kid, team after team, and a lot of times it's their better players that just feel like they're letting the team down. They're not crying just because they got out. It's almost like they take the whole team on their shoulders and they feel like it's all going on them. And so I always say, I started saying this, like, you can cry all you want as long as your hands are on the fence and you're rooting on your teammate. Like, you can cry and be upset, but you can't go sulk in the corner and it be all about you. You can't help it. You're crying, whatever. And you'll see how fast, when you start rooting on somebody else, how quick you think about yourself, and you no longer have that same feeling. Dries up really quick. Just like Coach Steve said about the toilet bowl, you can be going from crying to laughing and then it's gone. Like, it's trying to get them and give them ways. Another thing that we did was we would actually ask all the players on our team, like, how do you want us to react when you strike out? One kid was like, well, a pat on the back saying get him next time is fine. Another guy might say, I like to get a high five. And one kid actually said, this kid Ryan actually said, I don't want you to say anything. or else everything just makes me mad. So what we did for him was we got a small thing of rice that was like this rice thing that they could grab, and he would take it and slam it on the ground, and then he was fine. It was like he had to just get out the anger of what just happened, and then he was totally fine. So every kid is gonna have a different way to manage that situation. But if you don't know that as a coach or take the time to know that, you giving that kid a, hey, don't worry about it, patting him on the back makes him want to throw you through the fence. so that's that. So that hopefully those help you with some of those players, because we've all seen them, and if you haven't coached one yet, you're going to coach one. So Coach Jason had a good question. He's from Ohio, 11-year-old team. This one always gets us, and it actually was fun because we had Brandon Martirano with the Giants. He was AAA. He works with us at Zone. He actually did the Dominate the Diamond catching course with us, and we were talking about pitchers and catchers. And we all see that in Little League. The kid catches and he also pitches. So Coach Jason's asking the question, how do you limit the throws? Like when is too much? So I asked Brandon, while we were shooting one of the videos, like, what do you think about kids that pitch and catch? And obviously at the older levels, he was like, I'm not really for it, but I'm also not against it. He's like, because so many kids do it. It's just a matter of you as a coach realizing that every time a pitch gets thrown to that catcher, he's throwing the ball back, managing the game. Coach Steve on his team at 16U, you have almost all your catchers are pitchers and do the same thing, but it's almost like managing if I know I'm going to have you in relief tomorrow, maybe you sit game one, and you want to talk a little bit about that? How to manage that as a coach?
That's one of the hardest things for my team, is because our closer on our 16U team is our catcher, right? And then our other catcher is also a pitcher, and he can be a middle relief guy, he can be a starter for us. So I really try to map out the weekend based around when I plan on pitching him. And it's challenging when you're playing 6-7 games on a weekend, because we're going to perfect game events. We went down to Georgia last year, and we played 7 games through 7 days. So everybody's arm hurts at the end of the week. Everybody's tired. Not to mention the catcher that's out there throwing 100 and something baseballs back to the pitcher every single day. So I try to break those guys up. For instance, if I think we're playing a tight game and I might need him to come in and close the last inning or two, I might have him catch the first 2 innings and then hang out for a couple innings and just be our DH or EH. I'll have our other catcher hop in there for innings 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then hopefully bring that kid in to close the 7th. And he's kind of got that bulldog mentality too. It doesn't matter if he caught 10 games in a row, he still wants the ball in his hand, the last inning of the last game. So that's another thing that you have to battle, is kids that really want to be in there, right? It's our job to manage the pitch counts, manage the amount of throwing. Because I remember being that age too, and I don't care if I played shortstop 5 straight games, I'm ready to go out and pitch 120 pitches. And that was just my mentality, and my catcher has the same mentality now, and it's tough to manage, right? You want kids like that. You want that bulldog, blue collar mentality. Just put me out there to work and I'll get it done. But we also owe it to them to keep them safe and to manage it that way. But I think it's a really good question. If you've got multiple catchers, try to break them up. Have one kid catch 4, the next kid catch 3, then flip-flop the next game, just to limit the throws as much as possible. Or you might have one really good catcher and one not so good catcher. The second you're up big, throw that not so good catcher in there and just save some bullets from the other guy, because again, leaving that kid out there every single game for 6-7 innings at a time and then assuming that he's just okay to pitch, not necessarily the case. But Coach, I definitely feel your pain on that, because I go through it now with my team, and I've had them since they were 11.
Nice. So we said we're going to talk a little bit about arm care, and so we did some research on it. We reached out. I want you guys to all go on Jaeger.com, and they have some really good stuff, from long toss, band work. So we brought some bands to show you. It also has a really good exercise routines on here. You'll be able to see it from the page. If we can zoom in a little bit, we can check those out on there. So those are some really cool ways to kind of just check out and look at some of the exercises. I'll make sure that We leave a link in, a link below, but there's dual arm exercises, throwing arm exercises, but there's 3 phases to arm care, right? There's the preparing your body, the preparing the arm thoroughly. So a lot of times what you'll do is we call them arm circles. And people think, oh, they're so basic, but really they work really well. You're gonna take your palms and you're gonna put them up. And when your palms are up, you're gonna do circles. You're gonna do circles forwards, and you're just gonna get them bigger and bigger and bigger. This works on flexibility, it works on strength, and it works on getting the blood flow to the area. You're then gonna flip your palms down and then do the same exact thing. And if you do them for a few minutes, you'll see your shoulders start to warm up, your forearms start to warm up a little bit, your hands, and that's something that you could easily do for 1 minute to 2 minutes and really get almost the burn going with your arm to get it ready. Then you can go into the J-band routine, whether you're just using baseballs or you actually have bands that you're putting on the fence and working through. Those are all great ways to build the strength of the little muscles that are inside your shoulders and inside your arms. The other phase is the recovery, and that is after I throw or after I pitch, what do we do? Well, there's another set of arm care that you can do. You can also run to get some of the lactic acid and to kind of get the blood flowing. After somebody pitches or does a bullpen, they can do some running, some sprinting, some long distance running. There's many ways to kind of get the blood flowing. And the third part is we wrote down as listening to your body, listening to your arm. When you're throwing, are you in pain? Are you sore? Is your arm fine? And that's not something that a coach can tell you. It's your body telling you that. If you throw them for 3 days in a row and the next day you're like, man, my arm's sore a little bit, well, we need to back down from the throwing program. It's not just, well, I'll just work through it. Especially as a throwing athlete, you don't want to work through a sore arm. It's just kicking it back and dialing it back a little bit. So people also ask, well, my son's 10, 11, 12, are the bands okay? Absolutely, they're okay. We're not talking about heavy weights and lifting heavy weights. We're talking about bands that are real thin bands that are just kind of getting your body, almost like the things that you would do on a daily basis. That's how light the band is, but it's to get the arm working. It's to, like I said, strengthen the little muscles in your arm, your elbow, your shoulders, your forearms, your wrists, and that sort of thing. So 10, 11, 12, teaching them at an early age about arm care is huge, because now they're building a routine. So as they get older, they already know that I don't just pick up a baseball and throw it. I have to actually warm up first, and now I can pick a baseball up and go through my routine. A lot of people also talk about long toss. Jager's huge on long toss programs, how to go about doing them, what you're looking for, what is a long toss, how does it build arm strength, and all that stuff is attached there. We believe in all of it. There's so many things out there. If you type in the word long toss, the list will be this long. If you type in medicine or med ball throws and plyo balls, like, the list will be this. Half of the people will say they're bad, half of the people will say they love it. Like, there's so many things out there that you have to just really do your homework and know your player, know their age, their size, their build, and those sort of things. But arm care is huge, and every single one of the players on your team is a throwing athlete. So they should all be doing bands. It's not just, well, he's a pitcher, he does bands. Well, everybody's throwing. And sometimes your shortstop pitches, your catcher's throwing, 120 balls, 150 balls a game. Like, everybody should have a set of bands or have a routine that they're doing to strengthen their arm and to keep their arm safe. So I just wanted to make sure we touched a little bit on that. Again, we say Jager all the time because they have great exercises. They make it simple. They have tons of media behind it. They have a lot of research and science behind it. So that's that's an area that we kind of go to get some of that information. You can also check out our pitching program. We have a pitching course that first round draft pick Mikey Nikorak put together for us, and it's all in there. So if you have a player 13 and up or 12 and up, it's everything from throwing different pitches to how to get your body ready to how to demand strikes, all different types of routines, pitchers, fielders practice, how to field your position, everything and anything that has to deal with pitching and creating great routines. It's in the pitching course. So if you have our membership, you already have it all at your fingertips. You can just go in the app, pitching course, boom, everything pops up. It's all broken down for you. So for those of you that don't have our membership, go on, click the link in the comments. You get everything for free for 7 days. So you get to check out everything that we have to see what's best for you, or just kind of just scroll through and check everything out, because we pretty much give everything to you. You know, the templates, the practice plans, the codes of conduct, anything and everything that we've put together is all in there. So, you know, we're excited to have that. So I guess, are we gonna have one more question, or are we gonna say our winner?
I think you got to go with the winner.
We got to go with the winner. Holy cow, it's 11:55 already. We always go a good 15 or 20 minutes over our time. So the winner of the 8-week coaching course, not only for him, but for 3 of his favorite coaches, is John Simon. John Simon, Brock Jerkovic, Matt Werner, and James Seabrook. You 4 are getting from Coach Steve and Coach Duke and Dominate the Diamond a free 8-week coaching course that's going to help you, give you all the tools you need to dominate your season this season. So Coach Steve and I always look at the comments. Leave a question. If you think of a question tomorrow, you can still go back into this live and add that question, and we'll make sure that we do our very best to answer that question either with one of our videos or on our Instagram. We have a Dominate the Diamond TikTok. We have a YouTube channel. I mean, we have everywhere and anywhere that you could want to go to find our information. We'll have it there. So Coach Simon, congratulations, our 8-week coaching course winner. From Coach Steve and Coach Duke at Zone Sports Academy and Dominate the Diamond, go out and dominate the day, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.